Okay, so for question 5, you are going to average rate of change is just like finding slope of a line, except it's not a line. So you can think of average rate of change as the same, not the same thing, but close to slope. Nonlinear functions don't have slopes, but we can estimate what their change is using the slope functions or using the slope formula. So I think you might have talked about in your video a function f of b minus f of a, and if you haven't, don't worry about it. B minus a. This is just the change in y values because remember f of x is the same thing as y, and then these are your x values. So basically you're just finding the difference of the y values, the difference of the x values, which is the same thing as the change in y over the change in x. So the only difference is it specifies, average rate of change specifies over an interval. So you're not looking at every single point, you're looking at 2 points. So this one specified over the interval, let me get down here, over the interval from 0 to 3. So that just means I'm interested in when my x is 0 and when my x is 3. So I'm going to go back up to this g of x function, and I'll do it in red. I'm going to erase this here. So if I want to find when x is 0 and x is 3, I'm going to plug in 0 for this function and 3 for this function. So g of 0 would be 0 squared minus 2 times 0, which would be 0 minus 0, which is 0. So that point is 0, 0. And then g of 3 is going to be 3 squared minus 2 times 3, which would give me 9 minus 6, which would be 3. So the point would be 3, 3. Then I'm just going to find my slope. How do I get from 0 to 3? I add 3. How do I get from 0 to 3? I add 3. So then the change in y over the change in x gives me 3 over 3, which is just 1. So the average rate of change for that first function is 1, the g of x. So then my second one is a table. And this I'm still looking at from 0 to 3. So I'm going to take that function and I'm going to look when at this point 0, 1 and this point 3, 7. So I'm literally I don't need to know about the points in the middle because I'm just looking at the average over that interval. So I'm going to say to myself, okay, how do I get from 1 to 7? That's plus 6. How do I get from 0 to 3? That's plus 3. So then 6 divided by 3 is 2. So the average rate of change for f of x is 2. And then finally we have a graph which works the same way. So I'm going to make a table and I'm just going to look at my values when x is 0 and x is 3. So at 0, my point is 0, 2. And at 3, my point is 3, 9. So then I can just, again, find the slope. How do I get from 2 to 9? Plus 7. How do I get from 0 to 3? Plus 3. 7 over 3 is 2.3 repeating. And then I can put my functions in order. So 2.3 is the greatest, which means h of x is going to be on top. And then just look at your other two functions, which is greater f of x or g of x, and just list them in order from greatest to least. Hope that helps.